Welcome to the Concierge Care Health System podcast. The information shared in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Listeners should be aware the content is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with a physician or other qualified healthcare provider for medical questions.
Okay, so when we talk about older drivers, I think there's often this kind of this image, maybe some concern, sometimes even, a bit of a joke. But the reality is, well, it's a lot more complex and actually pretty surprising. What most people maybe don't realize is just how much our demographics are changing, like really dramatically. Between 2010 and 2020, the number of folks aged 65 and older in the U.S., it shot up by over 35%.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nearly 5 times the growth rate of the whole population. And it's not just, a general trend. It's really changing who's on our roads. Get this. In 2022, there were almost 52 million licensed drivers aged 65 and older. That's a 77% jump since 2004.
77%? That's huge.
That's it. Far more dramatic than I would have guessed.
Yeah.
So for this deep dive, we really want to get past those simple assumptions. Our mission is to unpack this whole complex topic of driving in advanced age.
And that's so important because there's this paradox, really, when you look at older driver risk.
A paradox. How so?
Well, on one side, older adults as a group,
Right.
they're often some of the safest drivers out there, really conscientious.
Okay.
They wear their seatbelts more, they drive less aggressively, they're way less likely to drive impaired by alcohol, things that, make the roads safer for all of us.
Right. Makes sense.
But here's the other side of it. When a crash does happen involving an older person, the outcome is often much, much worse for them. And it's generally not because they're causing more crashes. It's about physical vulnerability. Frailty increases with age.
I see.
Just look at the numbers from 2022. Around 9,100 older adults were killed in crashes. Over 270,000 ended up in the ER for crash injuries.
That's staggering.
Per day. Yeah, it averages out to about 25 deaths and over 740 injuries every single day.
Wow.
So this high death rate, it's not really fitting that dangerous elderly driver stereotype. It points to something else, maybe how our roads, our cars, our whole support system isn't adapting well enough to, the normal changes that come with aging.
That's a really important distinction, isn't it? Vulnerability, not necessarily causation. But that stereotype, it does stick around.
It does.
So if it's not just about how many miles they drive, where's the real complexity? We hear about fatal crash rates per mile. But you're saying that can be misleading.
Exactly. It can be, because a lot of older drivers are very good at what we call self-regulating.
Self-regulating?
Yeah, they consciously avoid situations they feel are risky, like driving at night, or in lousy weather, or on busy, high-speed highways. They often stick to shorter trips on local roads instead.
Okay, that makes sense. Driving less, driving safer routes.
Precisely. But here's the catch. Local roads, while the speed limits are lower, they're often much more complex environments.
How so?
Well, you've got more intersections, right? More pedestrians, bikes, more potential things happening at once.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the data shows older drivers are involved in crashes at intersections more often, proportionally, especially those tricky, unprotected left turns.
The left turns, yeah.
Yeah. So even if they drive fewer miles overall, they might actually have more exposure to these really complex driving tasks on local roads. That gives you a clearer picture of the risk than just looking at total miles driven.
And connecting this to sort of the bigger public health picture, for most older Americans, driving isn't a luxury, is it? It's fundamental.
Oh, absolutely essential. For independence, getting to the doctor, groceries, seeing friends, staying involved in the community, it's key.
So losing that ability.
Right. What we call driving cessation, stopping driving. It's not a small thing. There's actually a lot of solid research showing it's linked to some serious negative outcomes.
Like what?
Like a significantly higher risk of depression, more social isolation, obviously, but also faster cognitive decline, faster physical decline, even higher mortality rates.
Wow. So making someone stop driving, even for safety reasons, is basically a major health intervention itself.
That's exactly it. It has foreseeable and often pretty severe consequences for that person's overall well-being.
That really reframes it. It's not just about taking away the keys. It's potentially impacting their health span.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's dig into why driving becomes more challenging. What's actually changing functionally as we age? Because driving, I mean, it looks easy, but it's incredibly complex.
It really is. It demands the seamless integration of, seeing, thinking, reacting, moving all at once.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, those abilities change. Let's start with vision. It's probably the most critical sense for driving.
Right.
So someone in their 60s might need like 3 times more light to see clearly than someone in their 20s.
3 times?
Yeah. Makes it much harder to spot hazards when it's dim, dusk, dawn, bad weather. Then there's peripheral vision, your side vision. That can narrow quite a bit, maybe by 25 degrees by the time you're in your 70s.
Kind of like tunnel vision.
Sort of, yeah. And that makes intersections dangerous because it's harder to see cars coming from the side without really turning your head. You also get more sensitive to glare, and it takes longer for your eyes to adjust going from light to dark, like into a tunnel or garage.
Mm.
And depth perception can get worse, making it tough to judge how fast oncoming traffic is moving again, crucial for those left turns. Plus, common eye diseases like cataracts, glaucoma, macular degeneration, they obviously add to the challenge.
Okay, so vision is huge. What about the thinking part? Cognition.
Right, cognition. Generally, we see information processing slows down, reaction time gets a bit longer.
Even milliseconds count, I guess.
They absolutely do. It can be the difference between braking in time or not. Then there are executive functions, things like attention, working memory. Those can decline too.
So multitasking gets harder.
Yeah.
Like watching the road, the speedometer, listening to GPS.
Exactly. Divided attention becomes more difficult. Or maybe forgetting where you meant to turn. Memory issues, disorientation can also crop up. It's estimated, actually, that somewhere between 4 and 8 million older adults with what's called mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, are still driving.
And that might show up as
Things like inconsistent braking, sudden lane changes, getting lost more easily. And what's really interesting is this growing understanding of a link between sensory decline, like vision, and hearing loss and cognitive decline later on.
Oh, they're connected.
Seems to be, yeah. And then, of course, there are the physical and motor changes.
Like strength and flexibility.
Yep. Reduced strength, less flexibility, smaller range of motion. Think about arthritis in the neck, making it painful or difficult to turn your head fully to check a blind spot.
Ooh, yeah.
Or maybe less leg strength or control for the pedals. Reflexes, both mental and physical, can slow down. And even changes in sensation like not feeling your feet as well can affect how smoothly you use the gas and brake.
So many interconnected pieces.
And one more huge factor, medication.
Right. Older adults often take multiple prescriptions.
Over 90% take at least one. And polypharmacy, taking multiple drugs, is really common.
Yeah.
The problem is many medications or combinations of them can cause side effects that are dangerous for driving.
Like drowsiness.
Drowsiness, dizziness, confusion, slowed reaction time, you name it. So having regular medication reviews with a doctor or pharmacist is just absolutely critical.
Okay, so putting it all together, these specific functional declines, vision, cognition, physical changes, medication effects, they directly lead to the kinds of driving errors we sometimes see.
Precisely. That difficulty with unprotected left turns we mentioned, it makes perfect sense when you consider potential issues with depth perception, processing speed, judging gaps.
Yeah.
It really underscores that idea of functional age versus just chronological age.
Mm.
How old you are isn't nearly as important as how well you can perform the task needed for safe driving, your actual ability.
So if age itself isn't the best predictor, then how do we figure out who might be an at-risk driver? Can't just be waiting for a crash.
No, definitely not. It really needs to be a multi-layered approach, and often it starts informally with family members.
Noticing thing.
Yeah, noticing maybe new scrapes or dents on the car, the person getting lost on routes they should know well, maybe mentioning more frequent close calls or other drivers honking, little red flags.
Okay, so family awareness is step 1. What's next?
Well, primary care physicians have a really important role during regular checkups. They can screen for medical conditions that affect driving, review those medications we talked about. And there are even some quick in-office screening tools, like something called OTDRS clinical assessment of driving-related skills, just to get a baseline.
That's not a full driving test.
No, not at all. For a more thorough evaluation, the next step is usually a referral to a specialist. Sometimes it's a state-licensed driving instructor who can assess skills, but the real gold standard is an evaluation by an OTDRS.
OTDRS.
Occupational Therapist Driving Rehabilitation Specialist. It's a specialized field. They do a comprehensive assessment looking at both the clinical factors, vision, cognition, physical ability, and doing an actual on-road evaluation.
Ah, so they combine both perspectives.
Exactly. And based on that whole picture, they can make really tailored recommendations. Maybe it's therapy, maybe specific adaptive equipment for the car, or sometimes, yes, they might recommend stopping driving.
That sounds like the ideal way to do it, really personalized. But you called it the gold standard. Is it actually widely used? Are people getting these assessments?
And that's the rub. It's a major systemic challenge. We know that over a quarter of older adults say they have transportation limitations, but guess how many actually get driving rehab?
I'm guessing not many.
Only about 9.2%. It's tiny.
Why so low, if it's the best practice?
Well, there's several barriers. Becoming an OTDRS requires extensive, expensive training, so there just aren't that many of them.
Okay.
Many primary care doctors aren't even aware these services exist to refer patients. And a big one is cost. The assessment itself can run, $200 to $400, maybe more, and it's often not covered by insurance or Medicare.
So the best approach is basically inaccessible for a lot of people.
Largely, yes. It creates this real gap where we know what best practice looks like, but the system isn't set up to deliver it effectively to most people who could benefit.
That's deeply concerning. And it leads right into this really difficult ethical area, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's a constant tightrope walk.
Between what?
Between respecting an individual's autonomy. I mean, driving is such a potent symbol of independence, freedom, and the collective responsibility we all share for public safety on the roads.
Yeah, that's tough. How do you navigate that?
Well, communication is key. Having those difficult conversations about driving safety, but framing them supportively as part of overall health and wellness, not as a threat. Informed consent is crucial. And then there's the whole issue of reporting. State laws vary a lot on whether and when doctors are required or permitted to report medically impaired drivers to the licensing agency.
That must be tricky for doctors.
It is. There's an ethical obligation, often a legal one too, to be transparent with the patient about reporting possibilities. But, and this is critical, you can't really have an ethical assessment process that might lead to someone losing their license if you don't also address the consequences of that.
Meaning?
Meaning, society has an ethical obligation to make sure viable alternatives for getting around exist. The conversation has to shift away from just, should you drive, yes or no, towards, okay, maybe driving isn't the best option anymore, so how are we going to make sure you can still get where you need to go, stay connected, remain active in your community? It's about ensuring continued mobility and engagement.
Right. Focusing on the need mobility, not just the method driving.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk solutions then.
Yeah.
What's in the toolkit to help mitigate the risks? It sounds like it needs to be pretty comprehensive.
It really does. And it starts with the individual driver. We already mentioned self-regulation, avoiding night driving, bad weather, etc. That's the most common strategy people use.
But that also means less mobility, potentially.
It does. That's the trade-off. But other individual actions matter too, just basic stuff. Staying physically active, getting annual eye exams, having those medication reviews we talked about. General health is driving fitness.
Makes sense. What about driver education, like those refresher courses?
Those courses, like the AARP Smart Driver one, can be helpful for refreshing knowledge of rules and safe practices. But the evidence is even stronger for hands-on, on-road training.
Actual driving lessons.
Yeah, personalized coaching behind the wheel. There was a big review study in 2023, a meta-analysis, and it found that this kind of training significantly improved driving skills. And get this, it could potentially reduce at-fault crashes by as much as 32% per person year.
32%, that's huge.
It's incredibly effective because it's tailored to the individual's specific needs and challenges in a real-world setting.
Okay, so empower the driver. What about the car itself? Technology must play a role.
A massive role. Even things we take for granted now, like automatic transmission and power steering, have made driving physically easier for everyone, including older adults. And there are programs like CarFit, which help older drivers adjust their seat, mirrors, steering wheel, to get the best possible fit in their vehicle for comfort, control, and visibility.
Simple but effective.
Very. But then you have the really advanced stuff, AID.
Advanced driver assistance systems like backup cameras.
Backup cameras are great, yeah. But ADS goes way beyond that. Think forward collision warning, FCW, and automatic emergency braking, AEB.
Those can help if reaction time is slower.
Exactly. They act like a second set of eyes and can hit the brakes faster than a human sometimes. Then you've got blind spot monitoring, BSM, and rear cross traffic alert, super helpful if you have trouble turning your neck.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And things like lane departure warning, LDW, or lane keeping assist, LKA, can help if attention wanders for a moment. These systems are designed to directly compensate for some of those functional declines we discussed.
These sound like game changers. But you hear stories about people finding them annoying or confusing or turning them off. Is there a gap between the tech and its use?
Yes. The last mile problem, as you put it, it's a huge human-computer interaction issue. Over 90% of new cars have some ADAS features.
90%. So they're basically standard now.
Pretty much. But the safety benefits aren't being fully realized. Why? Well, the names and icons for the same feature can be totally different depending on the car brand, which is confusing.
Really?
The training people get when they buy the car is often minimal to non-existent. And honestly, some of the alerts or interfaces aren't well designed. They can be distracting or even increase the driver's mental workload instead of reducing it.
So the tech is there, but we haven't quite figured out how to make it seamlessly user-friendly for everyone yet.
That's a good way to put it. The bottleneck isn't the technology itself anymore. It's the implementation and the driver education piece.
Okay, driver, car. What about the roads? Can we make the environment safer?
Definitely. Roadway engineering is another crucial piece of the puzzle, making the environment more forgiving. Simple things, often. Using bigger, brighter road signs with clear fonts, simplifying intersections, maybe adding more protected left turn signals with green arrows so drivers don't have to judge gaps in oncoming traffic.
It takes the guesswork out.
Exactly. Also, making things safer for pedestrians, which indirectly helps drivers too. Longer crossing times at signals, refuge islands in the middle of wide streets so people can cross in stages. These kinds of changes reduce the mental load for all drivers, but they especially benefit older drivers who might be dealing with some of those functional changes.
So driver strategies, vehicle tech, road design.
Yeah.
What about policies? Licensing. That's often where the debate gets heated.
It definitely can be contentious. Many states have specific rules for older drivers. Things like having to renew your license more often, maybe requiring renewal in person instead of online or by mail, mandatory vision tests at certain ages. And a couple of states like Illinois even have mandatory on-road driving tests for older renewals.
Do those policies actually work? Is there evidence they make things safer?
The evidence is, well, it's mixed, not as clear-cut as you might hope.
Oh.
Some studies suggest that requiring in-person renewal does reduce fatalities for the oldest group, say 85 and up. And when states have loosened these kinds of requirements, sometimes crash and injury rates for drivers 65 plus have gone up.
Okay, so some indication they might help.
Maybe. But the evidence for mandatory road tests based solely on age is actually pretty weak. Some studies find they have no significant effect on crash rates.
So just testing everyone over a certain age might not be the most effective approach.
It seems not. It catches some people, sure, but it might also unfairly penalize safe drivers and miss others who have specific medical issues regardless of age. The thinking is shifting more towards a hybrid model.
Hybrid. Mean that.
Combining maybe some universal requirements that benefit everyone, like regular vision screenings for all drivers at renewal, with more robust, targeted functional assessments like those OTDRS evaluations we talked about, but only for individuals who are flagged as potentially at risk based on medical conditions, driving record, or maybe a doctor's referral. And importantly, those targeted assessments need to be adequately funded and accessible.
So screen everyone basically, but dive deeper only when there's a specific reason, rather than just based on age.
That seems to be where the evidence points for a more effective and fair system.
It's crucial, though, to remember that for almost everyone, driving won't last forever. There will likely come a time to stop. And you mentioned earlier that transition driving cessation, it's profound.
It really is. The psychosocial impact is significant and often underestimated.
You mentioned depression.
Yeah, the link is strong. Studies show former drivers have almost double the odds of developing clinical depression compared to peers who are still driving.
Double. Wow.
And it hits their social life hard. They tend to go out less, participate in fewer activities. One study found their social network, the number of friends and family they interact with regularly, shrank by 51% over time after they stopped driving. That leads to real loneliness.
That's heartbreaking.
It is, and it's tied up with that loss of independence, that change in identity. It can feel like losing a part of yourself. And remember that feedback loop we talked about?
Where stopping driving can actually worsen health.
Exactly. Poor health might lead someone to stop driving, but stopping driving can then accelerate further declines in health. Former drivers tend to show faster drops in cognitive and physical function, and they're nearly 5 times more likely to end up moving into a nursing home or other long-term care facility, even when you account for their health before they stop driving.
5 times. That just underscores how vital mobility is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which brings us back to that societal responsibility question. If stopping driving has these kinds of serious knock-on effects, what do we owe people?
It really frames access to good transportation alternatives as a public health issue, and a public safety issue too, frankly.
How so?
Well, consider this. On average, men can expect to outlive their ability to drive safely by about 7 years. For women, it's 10 years.
10 years, that's a long time.
It's a huge chunk of later life. It creates this substantial mobility gap. If we don't provide ways for people to fill that gap, we're contributing to the isolation, the depression, the health decline we just talked about. We have a responsibility to bridge that gap.
So what does a good alternative transportation program actually look like? What makes it work for older adults?
Well, several key things. The vehicles need to be accessible, obviously, but so does the information about the service. It has to be easy to find out about and easy to use.
Okay.
It needs to be affordable, especially for people on fixed incomes. It has to be reliable, show up when it's supposed to, and flexible enough to handle different kinds of trips. Not just doctor's appointments, but groceries, social visits, volunteering, whatever keeps people engaged.
Right, life isn't just medical trips.
Exactly, and trust is huge. People need to feel safe, so using vetted, trained drivers is important. But one of the biggest hurdles right now is simply awareness.
People don't know the services exist.
Often, yes. There might be various services out there, volunteer driver programs, subsidized taxis, accessible shuttles, but the information is all fragmented, scattered. It's hard for older adults or their families to find out what's available in their specific area. This communications gap is a real barrier.
So we need better ways to connect people to the resources.
Absolutely. Things like centralized information hubs, online databases like the National Elder Care Locator or Rides in Sight, maybe local call centers that are well promoted and easy for people to navigate. Making the existing options visible and accessible is a huge first step.
This has been incredibly insightful. It really paints a picture that's so much more nuanced than the stereotypes. Addressing driving safety in later life, it clearly needs this holistic, person-first approach. We've touched on empowering the driver through health and training, using vehicle tech like ADAS smartly, making roads more forgiving, adopting fairer licensing policies. But maybe the biggest piece is embracing that public health view, recognizing the need for robust, accessible transportation alternatives for when driving stops.
That's right, because ensuring mobility is ensuring health and connection. And maybe, just as a final thought to leave folks with, think about the future.
Okay.
We're seeing technologies like mobility as a service MaaS platforms that integrate different transport options. And further out, maybe fully autonomous vehicles. How could we consciously design these not just for general convenience, but specifically to meet the mobility needs of older adults who can no longer drive?
Using tech to guarantee mobility across the whole lifespan.
Exactly. Imagine a future where getting around with dignity and ease is possible for everyone at every age, regardless of whether they hold a driver's license. What possibilities do you, listening now, see for yourself or for your parents or grandparents in a future where mobility is built around human need, not just around owning a car?
Concierge Care, providing world-class, personalized care for patients and members. Taking a proactive approach by offering its free digital health clinic for anyone in need of these services. Reach out to us via our website, www.health.conciergecare.net, or give us a phone call at 786-809-2345.